Alright, I am back for more belt tensioning discussion. So, in the last video, you saw me do a Y-axis tensioner. That one was actually the more complex of the two in terms of actually doing this. And when I say complex, it really was not that hard to do. You got some metal pieces and bolts and nuts and such, and just have to kind of bolt it onto the machine. These are relatively easy upgrades to do. So I figured I'd just record it to kind of give anybody an insight of some of the issues that I deal with. You notice that I was dropping things and I was ending up using just a little bit of pliers to hold it in place as I was able to get it tightened up. So today we're going to do the X-axis. I have a Creality CR-10S and I've been doing upgrades on it. So this one's just on the tensioners to give my belts the ability to be tightened up as needed. I've had them loosen up, not necessarily on this machine, on some other ones that I played with at my work. And so I wanted to just make sure I had an easier way to tighten up belts as I need. So today, I already have the pieces and parts in place. One of the ones that we're going to be working with today is the X piece, the X-axis. So what you'll see right here is the part as I've assembled it. Now you get this in a bag. All the pieces kind of separated. I did end up upgrading my pieces, and I talked about that in the last one by just using a few different parts. So I have my own M bolts that I ended up using. In this particular one, you'll notice that there is a washer and a lock washer. And another little piece to this one is these were little just Phillips head screws. I decided to go ahead and put the Allen wrench style kind of bolts in there just so that I can use just my whole tool set without really having to use a Phillips head. It's just some preference of my own. But what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be installing it right here on the X belt tensioner. So as you can see, this is what is going to replace it. It's likely going to sit right about here. And like in the past one, I am not taking off the entire belt and really trying to put it on the machine. I don't really know how to do that yet. I'd have to figure it out. I'm sure I could figure it out. What I've been doing is just loosening this, and then I'll take out this bolt here that's holding this in, and I'll end up wrapping it around and then putting the bolt on the other end and tightening the whole sucker up, and we should be good to go. Because I said this one's going to be easier, it's probably going to be harder. So son of a bitch, why did I say that? That's alright. Let's go ahead and get started. One of the first things that I did is I obviously took off my machine, but I rose the Z-axis just a little bit higher off the bed. You know, I'm about 6-7 inches off the bed, and it'll make it a little easier for me to get to this piece right here and turn on my Allen wrench. So I'm going to start loosening this guy up. Just loosen these two guys here, these bolts. I'm sure there's a special name for these kinds of bolts. That loosens the belt. You can see the belt just loosened up pretty heavily, like right there. So what I saw before is I should be able to just take this belt, kind of move it off to the side. Again, I said I'm probably going to screw up my machine because I don't know really how to appropriately do this, but I'm going to go ahead and do that right like that. Now I took a mental note, by the way, before I went ahead and started taking a lot of this off as to where things are on the machine. So I want to just mount this belt just a tad bit up. Now when I did take that belt off, one thing I noticed is my extruder moved, and so it is what drives the extruder. So I'm gonna I'll have to deal with that in just a little bit here and figure out, you know, where that extruder needs to be. I might need to like pull it up against the edge there. So I'm going to get this little piece and I'm going to slide it in there. So there you have it. Not much to that. Now this is where it's going to be a little bit of a challenge. I'm noticing that this is hitting on the back, and that's probably what we wanted it to do in the first place. So I'm just going to finger tighten these guys. Just get that into place. Okay, there we go. Get that to hold. I'm going to actually have to use the Allen wrench a little bit here. There we go. Get that guy tightened up. Actually, it wasn't too bad. Alright. Next up, we're going to have to insert, I'm going to loosen this up actually. What might be helpful is if I adjust this camera angle. Let me just do that for a second here. Got this tripod, let's see how high we can get going over here. You can kind of see down at what's going on. Inside of here, got some pieces. Okay. So what I'm going to be doing is we're going to have to use this bolt, and there's a few little pieces that will need to go in through there. So the first piece, I did this in the last video, I was using these pliers to hold in place the pieces that I need as I slowly push them through. There's my drop. Typical drop. I guess I could just hold it on the edge right here. There we go. Now next, this is where the belt tensioner goes across, and notice that it's two pieces that kind of link into each other. So I'm going to have to figure out how to get those there with the belt across it. So give me just a moment here. Move in. Now what I'm doing off to the side off the camera is that I found there's like a little piece of something in my bearing that I'm going to try to remove. So you have to bear with me for a second as I try to remove this little piece. You're likely not going to be able to see it because it's not going to focus, but at the very top of that bearing there's a little piece of junk that got stuck in there. It's like a rock, honestly, a piece of glue. Looking at how that's in there, it's not looking like it's going to affect this because it's pretty much jammed in there. Not sure what it is, but it is not budging. And it's thankfully off to the side enough that it should not affect the belt. I was just a little nervous. Oh, no, oh, look it, we're getting it out. It moved. Looks like a little rock. Something from the factory. Alright, that makes me feel much better. Okay, back on task. Let's get this belt somewhat figured out. So what I think I'm going to try to do is I'm going to actually pull the extruder over because I have my steppers off at the moment. So that's probably a bad idea. Keep the extruder right where it was at in the first place. Get these guys. Get over that. Let's see how close we can get it. So when I said earlier that this was going to be the easiest one, I was mistaken. This one seems like it's going to be a little bit harder just because of the fact that this was a split kind of area. So I need to get as much ability to get this belt tensioned over there. Let me think how I could get this through there. First steps is to definitely get that spacer kind of mounted. And I had mentioned before, this all theoretically works easily, or if that's even a word, when you kind of think it through and you can move it around on a table, but not when it's actually kind of put into place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put half of that belt wheel on there first. So I think that would help. And then, you know what I could likely do is I could let this go, take this very far end, go as far as I possibly can without actually taking off the knob on the end. Pulling that belt up and around. I think I'm going to use right now is these Allen wrenches on this side, underneath. Pull this forward. Alright. See if this plan works out. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing, but I basically have 2 Allen wrenches just to help kind of just guide this this thing here. Putting 2 of them on there might not be the best option. It's moving the whole thing. There we go. Something there. Okay. So now I've got the belt around that first piece. I did actually purposely get that one. Okay, let's see if I can underneath. Completely around. Got it. Okay. So got the belt through half of it at this point. Now the next 2 pieces I need to get to the other half and then the spacer in the end. I think I'm going to just use pliers. See if I can hold this with the pliers to get that through. First piece. Okay, got that guy in there. And close it in on the belt. The last piece is our spacer. I'm going to tell you, this one seems like it was more of a pain in the ass to get in there. Just a little bit different of an angle. A little different pieces than what we had before. So I can get this jammed in there. This might be more, okay, there we go. We got it. Tighten this up. Shouldn't have to screw it too much, just have to push it through. Alright. And there you have it. So what I'm a little bit nervous of at this point is that I took it out and the extruder had moved. I mentioned that just a minute ago. So when the extruder moved, I don't know how to really tension this or if it's going to actually make a difference because that extruder had changed position. But we'll see what we can do. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten this guy up. Holding a wrench on the other end if you're wondering what I'm doing on this end. I'm going to use my sockets here. Actually, that was the right socket. I just can't get in on that other side because it actually kind of goes in a little bit. So let's go ahead and just tighten it there. Go. Having to go a little slower just because the way that this nut on the other end is kind of inset, it's taken just a little bit of effort to kind of get it into place. Okay. Next up, I'm going to make sure that I tighten the actual device right here. The one piece I'm not too satisfied yet with is this is not tightening as well because on the other end that nut has kind of this taper on it, and so it's making it difficult to grab the nut on the other end. Now I'm not sure how important it is to tighten that up super tight because frankly at this point it feels like it's on there pretty well. I'm gonna see if I can't get my my other wrench just to kind of hold it in there a different way. Oh yeah, there we go. So the cheap wrench that they just gave me doesn't seem to be as helpful because of how inset it is on the actual piece right here. So tighten that guy up. Okay, looks like we're good to go. So the next step is I'm just going to pull this out because I want to make sure we tighten that belt to an appropriate level. Again, this is going to be kind of a test for me to see how tight, or how I can even measure how tight it is, and I'm going to be having to do some calibration prints right after we do this to see what looks good. But that is it, ladies and gentlemen. We have the belt tensioner installed, and if you'll notice right here, I'll go ahead and move the camera so you can see this, is that you're able to turn this, and this whole part is going to move back and allow you to put that tension on the belt. Now, what's a little different about this belt tensioner is there's not a way to really lock it down. The other one we did a little bit earlier is this guy on the y-axis. So I do the belt tension, and then I actually kind of lock it down on here to really get it into place once I feel that it's nice and tight and ready to go. This one does not have that same feature. There's not a place for me to really lock it down. Again, I did add a few extra pieces onto this one. I know it's a little blurry right now, but you'll notice that I'll explain that there is a washer, a lock washer, and then another washer right in here, and that's helping kind of lock that piece down. So, thank you for watching today. Hopefully that gave you some more insights on how to put belt tensioners on. I'll be back with another video explaining how well it's done, or if there's anything more I learn about these. Have a good day. See ya.